Hi, I'm Figment, and today we're going to go over, or at least we're going to try to go over, a quick technique video. But before I jump into that, I just wanted to get some small notes out of the way. I've been trying to upload videos weekly, and for the most part, I stick to it. Every about 7 days or so, I post a new video, but I haven't actually set a date. It's not like every Monday or every Thursday or every Saturday, whatever the case may be. So, post in the description below, or post in the comment section below, whatever day you guys think that I should post new videos on. And then from there, I'll choose that date and I'll stick to it. So, moving on to the actual video, this is a quick technique video. Now, this is not a new technique or a new concept. I've definitely seen quite a few videos show this before. But I just felt like I'd give my little 2 cents on it, or my take on it, because there's always more than one way to look at one problem, or more than one way to look at one situation, etc. So this technique kind of came out of synthesis for me personally. That's how I kind of wrap my head around it, and it kind of made sense to me. Was just kind of fooling around with. We could even look at the subtractor here. Just synthesis and kind of seeing how sounds work together, if you will. I'm trying to find a better way to say that, but that's about as good as I can think of it. Um, and I guess basically all I'm saying is it just comes down to the mix knob and 2 oscillators. That kind of showed me how you can kind of have 2 separate sound sources, oscillator 1, oscillator 2, or if I duplicated this sub E like 2 or 3 times, you could have 4 or 6 or 8 oscillators and 2 or 3 mixed knobs between them all. And somewhere between that, if you stuff them all in a combinator, well, that goes back to our modular synthesis video and additive synthesis and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, the idea for me personally came out of just playing around with synthesis and seeing what kind of sounds you can create. And I guess the way to label it for me would be layering. And in this case, what this video is all about, or this technique is all about, is drum layering and how efficient drum layering can be. So I'm going to close out this subby because it is completely useless. I just wanted to use it just there to describe that that's kind of how the idea popped into my head. So drum layering, it's pretty straightforward. I guess I have to open the subtractor again because it's such a visual aid. But anyway, layering basically is the way I look at it now in reference to synthesis is simple. It's basically taking kind of two, in this case, waveforms, or specifically in the video. By the way, I just want to throw this out there, and I forgot to say that this might be a two-parter. I'm going to try and fit this into one-parter, but it might be a two-parter. Hopefully, it's just a one-parter. But anyway, the idea came to me in looking at synthesis and seeing how you were basically taking maybe 2 waveforms, a sine wave and a triangle wave, or some kind of a special wave and a triangle wave, or whatever, and the mix between the two and how those two sounds kind of interacted with each other, and then created a more complex sound just in the sense that they were both being played together. Um, right, that's basically what drum layering is. So this is an interesting technique that you can kind of use for any style of music. It doesn't matter if it's house, trance, hip hop. It just it anything. It's a cool technique to add to some of your productions, and just to see what you get. It's never served me wrong. But anyway, so the idea is kind of simple. You take basically um, two drum sounds or three drum sounds or whatever they may be. Let's just say it's a snare drum. So instead of two waveforms, you have two snare drums that are different samples, and you find some equilibrium between them using some effects. They layer over each other so that they play at the same time. And between the two, let's say we're still talking about the snare drum, you have snare A, right? And then you have snare B. Let's say you even have, okay, snare A, B, C, and D. So you have four different snares. Let's pretend that's all you have is four snares. Snare A, B, C, and D. Um, the idea is basically you could use those snare drums individually, and you could create a whole bunch of different drum patterns. Um, but if you layered, let's say, snare A with snare D, you could kind of create snare E or snare F. Or if you combine snare B with, or you layered snare B with snare C, then you could create snare F or snare G. Basically, by combining these two waveforms, but in this case they'd be samples, you get a more complex or a different sound than the two components individually. That's why the subtractor is here, just to show that kind of idea to you guys. So, yeah, this is definitely going to be a two-parter. Just thinking out loud. Um, so you have, or I have this simple Kong, and I have a drum pattern here. And all I basically did, and you could do this with a an NXT, you could do this with a redrum, you could do this with a Kong. I mean, it's not device specific in any way, shape, or form. But if you look on some of these pads, just to show you, you can see here I have two hats layered. Uh, in this case, this file is called hat25.wave, and this hat's called hat9. Um, I have uh, a couple of kicks layered here. The interesting thing is it's just a programming thing. This pad actually has a layer in the same drum module, but some of these are linked. So it just shows kick 5, but this is linked to kick 6, and this is linked to kick 14. So as I press this one, all three are placed. That's the layering right there. You also have this hat layering, it's in there. So you can kind of do it any way you want. You can link them like this, or you can layer them within the drum module. Anyway, I just want you to know that I've combined two different hats, two different hi-hats, three different snare drums, or whatever the case may be, and much in the same way. Really, the best way to take this is look at that modular synthesis video I put up, and then watch this one, and then it's just a weird linkage between these two because the concept is exactly the same. So anyway, it's to kind of wrap this up or kind of pull this to a focus this point. It is a way to really liven up your drums. Whereas if you only have, in the example I gave, four snare drums, by layering you actually might have 20 snare drums, 25, 30 snare drums. If you get creative, you could probably even have 50. I mean, layering is really, really useful. We're actually approaching the 10-minute marker, so I guess I'm going to cut this video right here. This is going to be a two-parter. It's kind of too much for me to squeeze in the 10 minutes. So, no worries though. Part 2 will be coming up very soon. So I will see you in part 2. Later.